In 1951, a man named Jack Williams went hiking in the Pacific Northwest. He was an experienced outdoorsman, familiar with the trails, and told his family he'd be back in 2 days. But 2 days passed, then a week, and there was no sign of Jack. Search teams scoured the area. They found his campsite untouched, his supplies neatly arranged, as if he had simply stepped away for a moment. But the strangest discovery was yet to come. A hiker reported seeing a man who looked just like Jack, walking into a thick wall of fog deep in the woods. The hiker called out, but Jack didn't respond. He just kept walking, disappearing into the mist. A 7-year-old girl, Olivia Patricia, was on a family camping trip in 1991. She was wearing a bright red jacket, easy to spot among the green trees. While playing near the campsite, she wandered just a few feet into the woods. Her parents turned away for less than a minute. When they looked back, she was gone. Panic set in. Search teams were called immediately. They scoured the forest for days. Helicopters flew overhead. Search dogs combed through the trees. But there was no trace of Olivia. No footprints. No torn clothing. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Then, something even stranger happened. A hunter, miles away from the original search area, reported seeing a little girl deep in the forest, wearing a red jacket. She was standing completely still, staring at him from behind a tree. But when he called out to her, she ran into the woods and disappeared. This sighting led to renewed searches, but still, Olivia was never found. Some say she was taken by someone or something that lives deep in the forest. And even today, hikers report seeing a little girl in red, silently watching them before fading into the trees. In 2010, a group of friends went camping in a remote forest in Montana. One of them, Robert, left the tent in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. When he didn't return after 10 minutes, his friends got worried. They called out for him, no answer. They grabbed flashlights and began searching. That's when they heard it, a whisper. "Come find me." The voice sounded just like Robert. But when they followed the sound, it kept moving deeper into the forest, always just out of reach. He was leading them away from the campsite. They were about to keep following when one of them spotted something on the ground. Robert's flashlight smashed. Fear took over. They ran back to camp and called for help. A search team arrived at dawn, but Robert was gone. The only clue, bare footprints leading into the trees. That stopped suddenly, as if he had been lifted straight off the ground. Robert was never seen again, but his friends still hear his voice in their nightmares, whispering, calling for them to follow. Deep in the Appalachian Mountains, a man named James went on a solo hiking trip in 2003. He was experienced, prepared, and carried a satellite phone. But after 4 days, his family stopped hearing from him. A search party was launched, but James seemed to have disappeared. A week later, a rescue team stumbled upon something strange. A cabin deep in the woods, one that wasn't on any maps. The door was open, and inside they found James's backpack and journal. But James himself was gone. The last entry in his journal was chilling. "Something is following me. I hear it whispering at night. It knows my name." James was never found, and no one could explain where the cabin came from. Some believe it was a trap, and James wasn't the first person to enter it. In 2015, a group of 10 friends set out on a weekend camping trip in a national park. They posted pictures online, checked in with family, and seemed to be having a great time. But when Monday came, none of them returned home. Calls went straight to voicemail. Park rangers found their campsite fully intact, as if they had just stepped away. A pot of water was still sitting over the fire pit. Their tents were open, their shoes left behind, but there was no sign of the campers. The only clue, a trail of footprints leading away from the site, but they weren't walking, they were running. And then, the tracks just stopped. Some say they encountered a predator. Others believe something far worse was waiting for them in the woods that night. To this day, they remain missing, their last moments unknown. The forest is ancient, older than any of us. It has seen things we will never understand. People disappear, whispers call from the darkness, and sometimes, those who enter never leave. Have you ever felt watched in the woods? Have you heard something that shouldn't be there? Tell us your stories in the comments, if you dare. And don't forget, subscribe for more terrifying true stories. Until next time, if you make it back.